It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Hello. Well, it was fascinating yesterday to see Democrats basically freaking out and trying to come up with an analogy for the New York Times Siena poll that showed Trump beating Biden in 5 out of 6. Purple states, do we call them?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess you could say that. Yeah.
And the just to give you an example, Georgia, Trump would win by 6. Pennsylvania, Trump wins by 4. Michigan, Trump wins by 5. Wisconsin, Trump loses by 2. Nevada, Trump wins by 11. Arizona, Trump wins by 5. All right. So you see that, all right?
Yeah.
And then they have him up against Harris, and he still takes 5 out of 6.
All right.
And I didn't see the other part of it where they actually put in Biden running against DeSantis or Nikki Haley. This is where it gets interesting.
Mm-hmm.
In Georgia, DeSantis wins by 1. Pennsylvania, DeSantis wins by 4. Michigan, Biden wins by 1.
Oh.
Arizona, DeSantis wins by 4. Nevada, DeSantis wins by 4. And in Wisconsin, DeSantis wins by 4.
Mm-hmm.
So, wow, that means in Nevada, you have Republicans that will go vote for Biden, or what is it? No, it's just that Trump is such a huge lead. Trump breaks 50% in Nevada,
okay,
and DeSantis is at 45 there. But the most interesting part of this that they don't. I didn't hear any of this. Who really kicks major posterior against Biden in the
Go ahead.
in the New York Times poll?
Not Chris Christie.
You are correct, sir. Who kicks major posterior? And I mean major. I just happened to come upon this was a couple of commercial breaks ago and was telling you it and going, I can't believe these numbers.
Right.
Who absolutely kicks Biden's butt? Nikki Haley.
That has to be independence.
Nikki Haley wins all of the 6 states.
Okay, but the numbers are very fascinating. So,
Are you ready? Okay.
all right.
In Georgia, Nikki Haley against Biden. Haley wins by 5. Pennsylvania, Haley wins by 10. Michigan, Haley wins by 10. Arizona, Haley wins by 9. Nevada, Haley wins by 9. Wisconsin, Haley wins by 14.
That's a 16-point swing from Trump because he loses by 2 in Wisconsin, correct?
Yes. And I think you're right. That's all independence.
That's independence.
It's all independence.
But she's not going to get the nomination.
No. But I mean,
look. There's been so much discussion as to who he would pick for Veep. I wouldn't place a bet on Nikki Haley, but I also wouldn't rule it out completely.
see, this is where I have no expertise in this at all.
Mm-hmm.
Because I look at Nikki Haley, and not that I wouldn't vote for her as a Republican candidate, but I view her as much more milquetoast And when she finally does say something, it's like when she did the whole thing about move Disney to South Carolina.
Yeah.
It's like, shut up.
And I was telling you during the break, she leans more toward Liz Cheney. She's not full Liz Cheney.
No.
But she leans more toward Liz Cheney and Mitt Romney than she does to the far right, which is the appeal to the independents.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, those are battleground state numbers.
No, that's yeah.
And I don't care whether it's a year out, because here's what look, the polls aren't exact and it is a year out. But when you see these wide disparities that you just normally don't see, that's where you say, okay, you see DeSantis and he doesn't do as well as Trump does.
Right.
And it's like, okay, he's got a reputation too. He's been sufficiently demonized by the by the media, even though he has had tremendous amount of success in Florida. But he's been demonized, both from Trump, from both sides. He's been demonized. But Nikki Haley, I mean, just through the roof. +5, +10, +10, +9, +9, +14 in battleground states. Those are numbers that you see in red states.
Yeah.
Solidly red states.
+14.
In which
I would love to see what the lead would be in Texas. I would assume she would beat Biden in Texas, but I'd like to see if it's 14. That's
it might not
very
be,
interesting.
It might not be 14 in
It
Texas.
may not be 14
right.
in Texas. It might be 8 or 9.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. You got to have the independents to win.
Yeah, that was, like I said, that made me sit back and go, whoa, wow. And I'm sure it probably made some inside the Republican Party go, whoa, maybe Trump went. And
well,
looking at a vice presidential candidate.
Well, and the fact that Trump would only be eligible to serve one more term.
Right.
And she's still young enough to, in 28, take the reins and go.
Okay.
And the question would be, would independents, if they're the ones who are not on board for Trump, would they say, okay, if she's on the ticket, that changes it, and my vision is for, beyond the next 4 years or whatever.
And I don't want to play too much into one
No.
one poll, but
No.
it was just so fascinating to see that. And then just one more thing. In Michigan, Trump wins by 5 in the poll.
Okay.
DeSantis loses by 1 to Biden in Michigan. Nikki Haley wins by 10.
Wow. Wow.
This is what I want analysis on this. I don't want analysis. I'm sick and tired of the analysis, the false analysis that you're getting from Democrats about why Biden is losing to Trump.
Yeah.
Well, reason is we haven't messaged correctly. We need Biden and Harris out there even more than they are right now, promoting their agenda.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I can't even get by that one. That's what they're saying. Some are saying that. Others are saying, well, okay, he might be too old. But there were the defenders out there not the defenders, but the excuse makers for Biden yesterday. And we played a ton of them in the first hour. You can go back, listen to our podcast when it comes out. But because it was just like, shut up, people.
Right.
Stop lying. At least if you're talking about your own party and the problems that they have some self-awareness and don't lie. Don't obviously lie.
Right.
And we saw the other representative yesterday when she came out and said, well, blacks and minorities, they vote with their feelings, and so they really don't know what's going on. And we need to tell them what's going on because they really don't know. And the people that vote for us are idiots, and they really, they don't really vote. There's no critical thinking there.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're getting.
Right.
Oh my God, it's just amazing.
Yeah. It's
but
it is fascinating to look at these numbers here. And again, it's just one poll. But the movement within the poll based on the different candidates.
Yeah, that's the interesting part of it. Yeah.
I never would have seen that coming. And the only explanation is independence.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what else it could be. Now, just very quickly, because we've gone through the number of Democrats that we're talking about, why Biden is down. And it's like, sorry, you don't have it.
Right.
And sometimes I just think that no Democrat has it. Even ones that I say, okay, they're trying to be intellectually honest as to what's going on. Roy Tahira and John Judas wrote a book. Where have all the Democrats gone? The Solon Party in the age of extremes. All right. And where have all the Democrats gone? To win back the allegiance of working class Americans, Democrats should stake out a middle ground in the culture war and prioritize a New Deal-style economic agenda. So what they're saying is, and you asked a great question when I talked to you about this off the air, and you said, where's the middle ground in the culture war?
Yeah, where is that middle ground?
Yeah.
This is it sounds like the Neil deGrasse Tyson type of approach on the issue. Well, what we need to do is just find middle ground. I'm just kind of making it up. I don't even know if it would work. Just middle ground. No, there is no middle ground in the culture wars. There isn't. Neither side is asking for middle ground.
I know that in this book they talk about the fact that identity politics has to go.
Yeah.
Well,
how do you do that?
Well, because what they're saying is identity politics have to go. There's got to be a middle ground in the culture war. We don't know where our middle ground is. You got to explain on that issue what on the culture war issues what that would be.
Right. Well,
where's the middle ground on the radical transgender movement that would be accepted by the radical transgender movement, which is a core of the Congressional Democratic Party?
There is no middle ground.
There is no middle ground there, no.
And, that's it. When, they say we need to, and it's true, they should end identity politics. But how do you do that after a generation or two now of indoctrination? You can't go unteach that. There's no way to undo that. You've created this, and there's no turning around.
Yeah, because of the culture wars, which I'll include the wokeness and everything else.
Yeah, right.
In our college campuses today, you've got if you extrapolate it out, the majority of young Democrats who believe that Hamas is right.
Right. Yep.
How do you change that one?
Well,
how do you change it when so many young Democrats believe that if you say that you can change biology just by saying so?
Right.
How do you change it? Once you brainwash to that level, how do you change it? And then when they have here, prioritize a New Deal economic agenda. Sorry, the money isn't there to do that.
Right.
So that gives you massive inflation. It's like everybody, and Mr. Tahir's written some good articles. We've read a lot of what he has put out there as a Democrat, saying they are the problems. But how do you change a political? We ask the question. We don't know how you do it. When you, for 40 years, play identity politics and you judge people by groups and not individuals, how do you all of a sudden say, from today on, we judge people as individuals and not by groups, and we don't judge people as victims or oppressors? That's been the core of the federal party for the last 40 years, 50 years.
Yeah.
How do you change it? You can't change it.
You absolutely cannot. That iceberg is dead ahead. there's no changing the course of that ship.
866-90 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
Connecting veterans with careers within the federal government and U.S. Department of Agriculture. That is one of the many duties for Munshi Ramdas, USDA's Military Veterans Agricultural Liaison.
Connecting veterans with paid apprenticeship through USDA and the Department of Defense's Skill Bridge program, and working with the Department of Veterans Affairs, helping veterans to gain valuable civilian work experience through non-paid internships with USDA agencies.
In addition, through the Skill Bridge program,
military veterans can also enter into internships on farms across America through this program called Arm to Farm, which is offered by a nonprofit that we work with known as ATRA across 45 states in America, collaborating with farms in those states.
I'm Ron Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Looking at some economic indicators here. Small businesses are increasingly turning to credit cards as a key source of funding as they continue to grapple with still high inflation. A new small business index published by Intuit QuickBooks shows that unlike large firms, a significant number of small businesses have relied on credit cards over the past 12 months. Well, large firms wouldn't.
Right.
Large firms are more corporations, so they're not going to use somebody's
credit
card.
They may have credit lines, but not credit cards.
Not credit cards. But a significant number of small businesses have relied on credit cards over the past 12 months. In the U.S., 30% of small businesses have used credit cards as the primary or secondary source of funding.
Boy.
Another 22% relied on a loan or line of credit to cover expenses. Credit card usage among small business owners spiked in 2021 when inflation began to rise and has been steadily increasing since then. In total, monthly credit card spending by small businesses is 20% higher on average than it was before the COVID-19 pandemic. That amounts to about $3,000 per small business.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
You know, I was telling you about the one brewery, taco place that I used to go to once in a while, and they're closing up. And they said, no, actually business was good and everything else. Said, yeah, prices were going up, but they had a place, a small place, $2,500 a month, lease up end of November, $8,000 a month.
Yep.
That's
$5,500
more a month. That's almost $80,000 in extra expenses just by rent. And they said, it was an easy decision. We're done.
Yeah.
We're gone.
Your profit is gone, so you can't stay.
Yeah.
You can't raise, to that extent, a small business can't raise prices. The CFO of Chipotle and CEO of McDonald's commenting in the media about the $20 an hour in California. And both said, yeah, we'll be raising our menu prices, but we don't know how high. Chipotle said probably in the mid to upper single digits, so 5 to 9% on the menu. McDonald's didn't say, but they both said, yeah, we have to do this. We have to raise prices, at least in California.
Call and join the conversation. 1-866-90-RED-EYE. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. We're talking about the media and Democrats' reaction yesterday to the polling, the New York Times poll about Biden and the book that was written by a couple of Democrats saying that the Democrats, number one, have to get rid of identity politics and they have to find middle ground on the culture wars. And we said, where's the middle ground on the culture wars? Let's go to Kevin in San Diego. Kevin, welcome. You're on Red Eye Radio. Welcome to the show.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Thanks.
I just heard you guys talking about some of the cultural war stuff, and I just want to call and put my 2 cents in.
Okay.
I apologize in advance if I lose you. I'm in a rural area. You guys were kind of talking about where to find a middle ground in terms of the cultural war with the transgender community. And I was thinking that, regardless of your politics, most even people that I've spoken to across the aisle, the kind of middle ground on that is that they don't think it's fair that genetically born males should be able to compete against females in female sports. While still, if they're particularly Democrats and liberals, the ones I've spoken to, seem to think that shouldn't be okay, even if they are able to exist and live. But I think it's kind of been across the board that it's unfair for males to compete against females. And I'm not sure exactly what the book you guys were reading said, but I kind of felt like that was somewhere the middle ground in which they were speaking about, specifically with the transgender community.
Well, it would seem like that might be middle ground. It might seem like, but it's not.
Because the fight is between the activists and pretty much everybody else. So those are your two sides, and that's really not middle ground.
Where did it? Who got this moving? Who got it moving? Who was the person who really was the catalyst in changing federal law or reinterpreting federal law so males could play against females? Do you know who that was? It was.
I honestly no, I do not.
It was President Obama. Before, in his last year, when he was the one that moved to change Title IX, he also said afterwards, before he got out, not only did he believe in the transgender movement, and that was the official moving of not just that, okay, transgenders exist, where you believe that you're the opposite sex, but it was the Democratic Party and their leader at the time that pushed it, even to the point where before he was leaving office in December of 2016, where he did an interview with The Atlantic, when they asked him, they said, you identify as black, yet, you're mixed. Why do you do that? And he said, well, I've come to understand that even race is a social construct. The basic, radical belief that your race can be based on what you think you are. So understand that's how radical Obama was on those particular issues. Now, on the equity bill that was passed by the House when the Democrats were in control a couple of years ago, I believe every single Democrat in the House voted for it, and that included having men play sports against women. When you look at the Ivy League, when you look at what happened in the Ivy League and the women there, overwhelming support from Democrats. So even if the public may view that as a middle ground, understand that the radicals that are the federal Democratic Party are never going to go to that position because they've worked so hard to get there. And the transgender movement doesn't wish to go there at all. And understand that when you say that men should play against women, what you're then saying is that a man who says he is a woman is a woman, and that's a core of their belief. And that part of it, I don't believe is going to change, and I don't believe any Democrat on the federal level is going to suggest that.
No, and I probably agree with you on most of what you're saying. I'm not really speaking on behalf of Democrats in Congress. I'm more speaking on behalf of people that I've spoken with that identify as independents, people that vote across the aisle. I don't think that what the Democrats are going to do at a congressional level, we're not going to be able to necessarily be able to change that from just the independent voter. I'm speaking solely as people that I've spoken to who want to see both sides of the argument. And
right,
I'm
but
not saying
that wasn't the discussion. The discussion was, what should the Democratic Party do? And our point was, the Democratic Party is not going to do that.
Because the suggestion was that the Democratic Party should find middle ground in the culture wars. There is no middle ground at all, because the extreme part of that party will not let that happen. The activists that lead the party will not let that happen.
But I would agree with you. Probably most independents would agree with what you're saying. Mm-hmm. I would agree with you on that. Most independents would. But it's whether the Democratic Party would be willing. Go ahead. Sorry.
I apologize. I did come in partway through your guys' conversation, so I was kind of on the back end of it.
Oh, okay.
I'm coming home late on it.
No problem.
So I didn't hear the initial part of it, but I did want to, stress that I think, maybe not for what you're saying is radical left Democrats. You're probably not going to be able to persuade them, but based on the book or the idea of what they're saying is that you should find a middle ground. I think that there are Democrats and I think that there are independents and liberals that would agree with that kind of being the middle ground, while still agreeing that they have the opportunity to exist in their own life.
Well,
just not that you can choose your sexuality or choose who you are as a person. Well, like you said, black.
Yeah, but what you're saying is, but they don't. The goal is not just to say, I believe I'm a woman, leave me alone. That's not what the movement's about at all. The movement is about, you must accept what I am. Women must compete against men, and if you don't like it, we will intimidate you. This is mainstream in the federal Democratic Party. I say federal because that's Congress, and in the administration, in both the Obama administration and the Biden administration, and you abide by it or we'll destroy your life, like they're attempting to do to Riley Gaines, and other Ivy League swimmers right now. So you're saying the middle ground is live and let live. That is not at all what their philosophy is.
Well, and it's also not for those that are saying for those that are saying that they shouldn't play in the sports. There's no one in this argument that's saying they shouldn't be able to live their life the way they want to. So that's really not middle ground, because it actually is.
Well, I think what I think you're saying right there is what is the middle ground to people that aren't conservatives, that they have the right to exist, but within that right to exist does not mean that you can compete against women when you were genetically born a male. I've heard you guys say in the past it's unfair because you're working against, it's counterproductive towards the women's movement. And I think when you look at it from that level, I think that's somewhat of a middle ground.
Well, but that's where
maybe you're not going to get the far left on that, and maybe you're not going to be able to convince Democrats who are making the decisions that necessarily. But again, from an independent level and from even most Democrats that I've spoken to, that's just kind of where I'm at with it in terms of I don't think it's fair that they compete, and we're trying to find what would be a middle ground, and I think that would probably be the closest thing I could come up with.
All right, now here's what I'll give you, Kevin. There are probably, if you actually went into the Democrats in Congress, where I think it was 99, or 100% voted to allow men to do it, I bet you that half of them don't actually agree with it, but felt intimidated to do it. That's where the bullying comes in. That's where the intimidation comes in. And remember, that is a part of the mainstream of the movement, that it is accepted to do that. And if you don't agree with it, we will do everything we can, as Riley Gaines has said and the other swimmers said. They were told, you'll lose your scholarship. You'll lose your ability. You may be suspended from school if you don't agree that males should compete. So it goes more than just, what you want of a particular individual and what their particular freedom should be, and I don't know any conservative who has said that you shouldn't be able to live your own life. Maybe there is somebody who calls themselves, but the majority don't think that. That's not even the argument.
That's not actually the debate. The debate
Yes.
of how they live their life isn't a national debate. And so it is about whether or not they should be able to play sports. And conservatives are saying no. And, yeah, plenty of independents are saying it. Plenty of Democrats are saying it, and some feel they can't say it out loud, including the athletes that are being affected directly by that. Thank you for the call, Kevin. But that's what it comes down to, is that we have to be very careful about what the actual debate is. The debate isn't about if anybody has the right to live their life. Of course they have the right to live their life the way they want to. They can live their life the way they want to. Now let's have the debate, the actual debate, which is what's going on, about whether or not men should be able to play in women's sports. And, there is no middle ground there. That's not the compromise. Right. The compromise wasn't, okay, we'll allow you to live your life and the way you want to, but you can't play. That's not it's not conditional. Anybody saying you shouldn't be able to live live your life the way you want to, basically is defying the principles of the founding of our nation. You're free to live your life the way you want to, and I frankly don't care how you want to live your life. We're not going to change science. We're not going to change the definition of words, and men shouldn't be playing women's sports.
And remember, the other thing that comes from it, and we had talked about this with Bill Maher going up against Neil deGrasse Tyson in his podcast, where they were talking about the whole transgender movement and college campuses and everything like that. Remember, with it comes the fact that these colleges wish to deny you your free speech. That has become mainstream inside the Democratic Party. We saw it. Remember when, was it Tom Cotton, I believe, that was asking the question to the Berkeley professor about the transgender movement and asking questions in earnest, what do you believe? And she said, that's unacceptable. That's offensive. Said, I'm asking you a question. I'm not making any judgments. Asking the question should not be permitted. So actually the radical transgender movement came into, you don't have free speech to even ask questions on these topics anymore. And so our point was, the two Democrats who wrote the book that's saying this is what the Democrats need to do, that they need to find, and they're writing this as Democrats, they need to find a middle ground on the cultural issues out there. We're like, where to the Democrats is a middle ground?
Exactly.
And the middle ground is the insanity of they think they're in the middle ground right now.
Right.
That was actually our point.
Right.
Not that there aren't independents out there that, believe that men shouldn't compete against women.
Right. Yeah.
So thanks for the call. 866-90-RED-I.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-I.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. I guess on all issues, you could say, for Democrats, what is a middle ground? What would they consider a middle ground? And I think it's where they stand now.
Yeah.
Where they stand now on the issues is the middle ground. Because say, well, if the Democrats, these are Democrats saying the Democrats need to find a middle ground on these cultural issues, and they need to find the middle ground on all these issues. All right, what's the middle ground on illegal immigration?
Right.
What is the middle ground on spending?
Right.
They sit there and the two Democrats, when they wrote the book on what the Democrats have to do, said they need to find the middle ground. Okay, we need, let me see. We need to spend trillions and trillions and borrow trillions of dollars and, have a Roosevelt kind of
Well,
New
that's
Deal.
it. I mean, because on that issue, it's not whether or not they're going to spend more money. It's where to spend more money
Yes. Yeah. That we don't have.
that we don't have.
And so that's not middle ground.
Right.
Middle ground would be saying, all right, we need to cut the increase in spending in half
Right.
over the next 10 years.
Right.
Republicans want it stopped now. We're willing to do half.
Right.
Right? That would be
Yeah.
would
Right.
be if you were. I'm not saying I would agree with it. I'm just saying if that's what you're saying, your effort is to have a middle ground, that you're too far to the left. All right, well then how far will you go to the right?
Right.
Well, you're saying you need a new deal, which means you want to spend trillions more dollars than you have right now. That's not a middle ground to anybody,
Right.
except the people getting the money.
Exactly. Yeah. We want Republicans to find middle ground. Let's work on that first when it comes to spending. How about that?
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood.